What's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another edition of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. But before we dive into today's episode, just want to give a quick shout out to our partners over at FOCO. Now, guys, if you don't know what FOCO is, it's the place to get all your Chelsea merchandise and football merchandise. I'm sure you've seen some of the crew wearing the Hawaiian-inspired shirts. You can get yourself a Chelsea mug. If you want to model a Stamford Bridge, that's also there, guys. If you've not checked FOCO out, hit the link in the description, use code CFTV 15% and get yourself some great Chelsea gear or football merchandise. So let's dive into the episode. Alex, we're here. Transfer window, not long until the end of it now, into the last few days. Lots of stuff happening, loads of outgoings to be done. Will Osimhen come? Will Toney potentially come? Will we see a ridiculous swap deal with Raheem Sterling and Jadon Sancho? Does anyone want Ben Chilwell? Load to dive into. Obviously, things on the pitch as well. Another 2 games coming up this week. Servette, second leg of the Conference League. And we've also got Crystal Palace at the weekend. Not to mention the Carabao Cup third round draw is also taking place this week. So there's plenty to get cracking with. Let's start with the transfer window, mate. Last few days of the window, always exciting. What are your thoughts on proceedings so far? We had the news yesterday that Chelsea are considering a move for Ivan Toney. There is interest there. We've still got this Victor Osimhen stuff, which seems to be the same news recycled day after day. Doesn't want to reduce his wages. Chelsea are in talks. Don't know what these guys are possibly talking about. They know what the situation is. So I don't know what else there is left to say unless he changes his demands and decides that he wants to come. I don't know what they're talking about. But, mate, what have you made of it all? The latest developments, the Toney, the Osimhen stuff. Who would you prefer? What do you think is going to happen?
It's such a good debate, and we had a group chat. I'm not sure if you're on the group chat, but and there was a poll that come out, and it was: would you take Toney or would you take Osimhen? Very, very equal in terms of what a lot of people were saying, because they both have their benefits, right? Obviously, you've got Toney, who's English, Premier League proven, brings that experience and that know-how in English football. He's scored goals at every level. And you would say, well, why would that change? And then you've also got the wages as well. So Toney's obviously going to fit into our structure. I don't think he's on much more than 60 grand a week at Brentford, which is perfect for us because even with a nice increase, he probably wouldn't be going over 100 grand, at least without Champions League football. So he would fit perfectly into the structure. And we know that we needed a striker for a long time. We need someone that gives us a different option to what Jackson has. And I think that, although Jackson does offer a lot, he can link up well. We saw a lovely assist against Wolves when he gave the ball to Palmer. And obviously he can score goals as well. We just struggle to consistently put the ball in the back of the net with Nicholas Jackson. And that's not his fault, right? I mean, I actually think he's done a good job since he's been at Chelsea. I like Jackson. I think he was arguably our most improved player under Pochettino, along with Cucurella. But every top team needs different options, right? Look at all the best teams they're trying to reinforce within that area. Arsenal signed Jesus, then they've got Havertz in. He's contributing goals. City had Haaland, then they had Alvarez. I know he's left, but you understand where I'm coming from. And then you go over to Napoli, and Osimhen's obviously been doing fantastic. I know they didn't have the best season last year as a club, so that would have affected his tally, but you've seen with Victor Osimhen, when he has a team that's playing good football, he scores a ridiculous amount of goals. And he is up there with the best in world football. Not renowned for his link-up play. You're not going to see him drop deep, and try and get involved. It's almost like Haaland in the sense that if he's going to do anything, he's going to look to score goals and that's it. So don't expect for it to look pretty every week. That's not the idea. It's to get output and contributions. So those balls that come in, from Madueke or Pedro Neto or whatever it is throughout the season, somebody needs to be in those positions to receive that. Osimhen is one of the best players to receive that. But yeah, I don't think the wages are sustainable. I don't think they're realistic. I mean, he's on almost 300 grand a week at Napoli as it stands. I'm not sure if that's euros or pounds. And he doesn't want to take a pay cut, which I think is fair. I think that is absolutely fair. You shouldn't have to take a pay cut to come to Chelsea, which is a top Premier League team. But you shouldn't be asking for $500,000 either. I mean, $500,000 That's ridiculous, mate. And Saudi will pay it. We know they'll pay it. But if Osimhen has any self-respect for his career and what he wants to achieve, and his agents come out and said he wants to achieve a lot in European football still, then you've got to understand that it's not all about money in Europe. If it was, then we would be like Saudi, but it's not like that. You know, it's the reason Premier League pays a lot is because of the quality of the football, but we can't pay as much as Al Ali or any of these other sides because they've got unlimited bank accounts. So yeah, we've got to be sustainable. We've got to be realistic. If it's within our budget and our structure, then Osimhen for me is the number one. He is younger than Toney and proven at the elite level, but if you can fit Toney into the structure as well, then you can't say it's a bad signing.
No, I mean, my thing with the Osimhen thing is, right, we constantly hear how, he's got unfinished business in Europe, he wants to come to the Premier League and whatnot. And we're sitting here with a few days left in the window. He's refusing to adjust his salary demands. And I'm just sort of thinking, how much do you really want this move? Because you're in a situation where you don't want to be at Napoli. You're not part of the plans. You're training on your own and have been pretty much since the start of pre-season. Your options are seemingly Al Ali in Saudi, go and sort of retire at 25 for a few years and maybe in an attempt that you might be able to come back to Europe. Or you've got an opportunity to come to Chelsea. They've got great history of African players. Yes, we're not quite where we want to be, but you've got the chance to be the spearhead potentially of something really exciting going forward. And my thoughts would be, why are you not just taking a pay cut? It's not like you're going to be making peanuts. It will be a lower incentivized base, a lower base wage, of course, but then there'll be performance and individual incentives, which could probably enable him to earn similar to what he's earning at Napoli. I'm just thinking, if you really want this move this much, why are you just not doing it? We've seen Joao Felix, wanted out of Atletico Madrid, took a massive pay cut to come to Chelsea. Those are the sort of people that you want to come at the football club. I don't think Osimhen's done enough in the game to be demanding that he's paid X amount of money to come to Chelsea. He's a good striker, sure. But for me, I'm looking at it.
Top striker,
yeah, he is. But for me, I'm looking at it and I'm sort of seeing this is what we're trying to do going forwards right now. You either fit in or you don't, and that for me is a concerning fact that if he really wanted the move, he'd make the sacrifice. And at some point, something's going to have to give. He either makes that sacrifice to drop his salary demands, which, by the way, he'd still be earning an absolute fortune, or you go to Saudi, brother, and we go and sign someone else like Ivan Toney. Like the choice is up to him. I think Chelsea are in a really good position with this one because I'm so glad to see we're not getting bent over in the transfer market anymore like we used to do in the Roman era, where we're just handing out ridiculous contracts here and there, and then we cannot get rid of players. I think we're finding a little bit similar with the Raheem Sterling situation, but I'm really pleased that we're not being held to ransom in the market. We're not getting done in. And we're going to do deals on our terms and on terms which suit us and are best for what we're trying to do moving forwards. And I think that's a real positive under this ownership, that we're not getting mugged off in the transfer market. Yes, of course, people might look at fees we've paid for, Mudryks or Enzos or Caicedos or whatever. Sure, I get that. But in terms of wages and how much these players are being paid is very much, not a lot compared to what you might see at a Man United, for example, like that. So I'm pleased we're not getting bent over in the market, as I said, but I'm also at a point where, well, how long do we give this? Because are we really going to wait until Friday? But what happens?
Of course we are. Of course we are, Charlie.
I know, but what happens then if Osimhen decided, you know what, I'm not changing my demands. I'm going to fuck off to Saudi for a couple of years, secure the bag.
Good riddance.
Yeah, sure, but that leaves us literally like hours to try and find a striker.
But mate, we're negotiating with teams that want to sell and players that want to leave. So
yeah, but
if we don't get Toney, if we don't get Osimhen, then you can go for Toney. And look, I don't think that at this moment in time, you just said it yourself, Charlie, we're not going to get bent over in the transfer market. If that means we don't sign the players that we want to sign, that is our decision because we're choosing not to offer a higher wage bracket. We're also choosing to pay a lower fee, which is really the problem we're going to have with Brentford. We'll be able to match Osimhen's clause. I mean, I think it was about 50, 60 million. That's totally realistic. But with Brentford, they want 50 mil, and we'll probably offer around 30.
They won't get 50 with such little time left, and they risk losing him on a free.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So this isn't actually a bad market for us. I think that we're in a very strong position. It's not just the fact that we want the players to come in; it's the fact that they want to come to us as well. I mean, Osimhen, there's been a lot of rumours that he's not actually massively interested in Chelsea. Is that just because of the wages? I think that that's probably the deciding factor. As soon as there's terms that are agreed on a personal side, then I think that he's more than happy to come down. I mean, there's not many players that have been linked with Chelsea as much as Osimhen, right? And I think you can generally tell these things are going to happen, right? So for me, in that sense, you could argue it's written in the stars. I think that it's a deal that needs to happen for Chelsea to get propelled into top four. If Toney comes in, there's the argument of whether he fits our system as well, which is why you can justify paying a lower fee and obviously lower wages as well, because you actually don't know with Toney. We've never seen him compete for a top team, right? I mean, England, he came on as a super sub, great, but let's be serious. Osimhen, you know what you're going to get, and he thrived when Napoli won the Scudetto, and playing a very similar style of football to what Maresca wants. So he will fit perfectly into this system, in my opinion. The physicality of this league won't be an issue. It's just wages. But Charlie, you are right, mate. We don't want to get mugged off. We certainly don't want to get bent over. But we've got to meet in the middle, right? We might have to make an exception, and he certainly does as well. I'm not saying that we pay him 500,000. I'm certainly not saying we pay him any more than what he's on at the moment.
Do you think he should come in and be the top earner at the football club? That for me wouldn't. Yes. But he's done nothing. Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
he's done nothing. He's one of the best strikers in the world.
No, but what I mean is, though, like, that creates issues, because if he comes in, he's earning more than everyone.
But I understand where you're coming from, Charlie.
If he comes in, what I'm saying is, if he comes in and he's earning straight away more than everyone else, having not done anything for the football club just yet, right? What happens if he comes in? He's not contributing. He's not doing well. And he's sitting on considerably more money than everyone else in the dressing room, who may well be contributing. That can lead to sort of resentment and things like that. In my personal opinion, really, he should be buying in to what we're looking to do. And I honestly, unless you're talking about like ridiculous talents like an Mbappe, for example, I don't think we should be changing what we're looking to do for anyone.
The market, though, Charlie.
No, but if we do, but what I'm saying is, though, if we change the wage structure for Osimhen, I'm not saying we will, but if we do, then it just makes a complete mockery of what we've been trying to do in the first place by reducing the wage.
Not really, because you get Lukaku out, and you just put those wages onto Osimhen, which will be lower anyway, right? Because Lukaku was on 325, 350. So even if that's down to 300, that's still a reduction for an upgrade on a better, younger player. You get Chilwell out the door, you've got 200 grand spare, Sterling out the door, 350. You still have saved a massive amount on your wages. And as to, in terms of creating issues with the dressing room, I think that he's one of the few players, Osimhen, that has actually been linked with Chelsea that we could seriously get, that has proven himself. And we've hyped up Neto, right? But what has Neto achieved compared to Osimhen, right? What has Enzo Fernandez achieved? What's Caicedo achieved? We paid over 100 million for those guys. They had to buy into our structure because they'd never played at the elite level. Even Cole Palmer, what did he do before he come to Chelsea? So, Cole Palmer earned his new contract. He deserved it. Victor Osimhen, because he's one of the best in the world at what he does, that is the market, right? If I want to go and buy an expensive car that goes faster than other cars, I'm going to pay more. I'm going to pay more for a Ferrari than I am for an Audi. That's just the way it is. And I don't see why that's such a big issue. Where I agree with you is we don't overcompensate, right? We don't overpay him. But, we can certainly afford to pay 300 grand. We can easily afford, $250,000. And we've been doing that with other players. So I don't think that's an issue whatsoever. I do understand that there could be issues if he doesn't perform, but that's the risk we've got to take. And that's also a risk he is taking, right? Because he might be thinking, if I go to the Premier League, it's the hardest league in the world to play in. Am I going to perform? I'm sure that's not the case, but these are all hypotheticals, Charlie. So I think we need to look at it and try and a little bit more black and white. If we sign good players, guess what? We're going to become a better team. And I think that's been the case with a lot of the players we've signed. I know you don't agree with what I said about João Felix. I think he's a clear upgrade on what we had. I think Neto's a clear upgrade on what we have. And we can say the same for a lot of players. So Osimhen, for me, is just that step ahead and really the cherry on top of this window.
Yeah, no, I would agree. You know, we are missing a presence in the box. Look, Jackson's great. I think we all like Nicholas Jackson. But he could really benefit from learning off a more experienced striker. And there's no doubt, whether it's an Osimhen, whether it's a Toney, you know, even Ivan Toney, for example, you know, even if he doesn't start every game, which he probably wouldn't if he came, you know, having that option from the bench of sort of half hour, 20 minutes remaining, that physical presence, you can like put balls into the box. He holds the ball up well. He's good in the air. His link-up play is actually pretty decent as well. It's quite an underrated part of Toney's game. You know, we are missing a physical presence in the box. There's no doubt about it. We're missing a penalty box striker who can get on the end of chances and is a difference between winning a game and losing a game or drawing or whatever. We do miss that. Do I think we can get top four without a centre forward? Yeah, I do, because I think the attacking quality in the team is still ridiculous. But it would make our life easier if we did have someone at the top end of the pitch who is proven at putting the ball into the back of the net. I think there's a lot of fans are still maybe a bit scarred by the fact that so many strikers have come to Chelsea and have just been a complete failure over the last years. But at some point, that has to change, surely. That has to change at some point. You know, we can't keep signing strikers and they're shit for us. Like, that has got to stop at some point. And maybe with Osimhen or Toney, it might stop. But as I said, it goes back to my point of, mate, how much, just to round out this little segment, how much do you think Osimhen actually wants to join Chelsea?
Well, I think that he does want to join us. I think that this is all PR, right? What we heard yesterday or the day before about him not being interested, I think it's all a smoke screen to try and get what he wants in terms of wages. Ultimately, he's going to be faced with three decisions. Right, he's either going to go to Saudi, go to Chelsea, or he's going to stay at Napoli and not play. I think that he's going to go to Chelsea. I really do. I think that if he has any respect for his career, that is all he can do. PSG aren't looking at him. They're not actively searching. I think maybe wages is a reason for that. I don't know. PSG do have a lot of money, but
I think PSG have already agreed terms with him. Like that PSG agreed terms with him earlier in the summer. They just couldn't agree a fee with Napoli, and it's unclear whether they were going to come back in for him or not. There's so many conflicting reports. 1 minute they're not in the race, then they're back in, then they're not. It's like some fucking hokey cokey in out sort of business going on here. Like, I don't know what's going on, but he has agreed terms with PSG, and I think, to be honest, PSG would be his preference if they were to come back in. But as you say, mate, like when you're faced with a situation, right, where either stay at Napoli, where you think, oh, I could maybe get back in the fold for 6 months and help the team, which might be unlikely now that Lukaku's arrived, or you're thinking,
you know, it would be funny though, Charlie. It would be funny if he come back in and then bench Lukaku.
It would be funny. Or you're faced with a situation, right, where you go to Saudi, you get a load of money, play not a great standard of football, probably score a load of goals, and hope you can get back to Europe in a year or two's time. I think the choice is very obvious for Osimhen, and in the next few days, we'll find out whether he actually is motivated by playing at the highest level or he's purely money motivated. The answer will come, and if he chooses the Saudi bag, then I think we're better off not having a character like that in the football club. It's as simple as that in my view. For someone that good, it shouldn't even be a conversation about Chelsea or fucking Al Ali. Like, seriously, it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. I know we're not quite what we used to be, but come on. Like, we all know that he'd be going for the money. And look, at the end of the day, it's a short career.
Well, if we were offering the similar wages, then it wouldn't be a choice. But there is a big gap.
Yeah, of course, the
In
big
terms of
finance.
what
Yeah,
they're offering
massive,
and what we're
massive,
offering. I
absolutely
mean, Charlie,
massive.
I have to admit, I mean, I would think about it. If I'm being
Yeah, well,
offered,
yeah, of
let's say
course you would.
Chelsea
Yeah, of
were offering
course
me
you would.
what,
Of course you would.
150 grand a week, let's just
Yeah,
say, making one of our highest earners, and they're offering 500,000 or
yeah, of course.
400.
Yeah,
That's a
mate.
lot of money, mate.
Yeah, bro, I get it. And like even Toney is reportedly got like he's agreed personal terms with Al Ali as well. Like I think that on a 3-year deal worth about 60 million euros across 3 years, and he could earn about 400 grand a week in Saudi. Ivan Toney.
Hey,
So I get it I get it why that's appealing. And like for us, when you're like, it's easy to sit here and say, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You should want to play at the highest level. Trust me, like if you're sat at a table and that money is in front of you, it's very difficult to say no. It really is. Like, how many people can honestly say? There'll be people in the comments, or just people in general. Oh, why are they going to Saudi? Oh, they just sold out. All this, all that. Just sit at a table with 400 grand a week in front of you and try and say no to it. Like
how much is that a year? How much is that?
it's about 20. It's around 18, 19 million pounds a year.
Unbelievable.
This is the point though. Like I get it. You know, fans, we want players to play at the top level and whatnot. But put yourself in that position sometimes. It's not as easy just to say no when that much money is in front of you. But we'll see what happens with this situation, whether it's Toney, whether it's Osimhen, whether it ends up being neither of them and it ends up being someone else, or it ends up being no one, and all this has been a complete waste of time. You know, that could also potentially be a feasible outcome. Talking of other shock transfer news, mate, Raheem Sterling, Jadon Sancho swap deal. Obviously, still a lot of obstacles to overcome in that. I was seeing something the other day that's saying that Chelsea owes Sterling 70 million pounds in wages and bonuses for the last 3 years of his contract. Now, whether they're going to pay him all that or not remains to be seen. But Chelsea and Sterling have got to come to an agreement over a settlement, I presume, for the remainder of his contract with us. The swap deal with Jadon Sancho is being discussed. Chelsea are going to have to get creative, I think, in terms of finding a solution to offload Sterling this late in the window. Sancho's believed to be open to a move to Chelsea. Juventus are also in for him. I'll be honest. I thought Joao Felix was an unnecessary signing. Jadon Sancho would be even more unnecessary because we're trying to reduce the squad size, right? Not just replace it. We saw at the weekend against Wolves. There was no Sterling in the squad. We had Neto, Felix, and Nkunku all on the bench. Imagine you add Sancho to that. You know, I just simply feel I don't think we need
Bad
another.
signing, is it?
No, but I don't think we need another attacking option. If we're going to get an attacking option, we get a striker. But what are your thoughts on this swap deal, and how do you see things transpiring in terms of Sterling's future? Because I think it's going to be very difficult with such little time left to move him on, and we're going to have to either get this swap deal sorted or accept a deal that isn't really that preferable to either party.
I think that let's just take money out of the equation. I think that it would be a good swap deal in terms of player for player.
It's a better deal for Chelsea than it is United.
Well, Ten Hag would say otherwise. I think that
we know Sterling's gash, so
I think Ten Hag would rather work with Sterling than Jadon Sancho. I mean, he clearly doesn't like him. You know, one thing that Sterling has is experience. He knows how to win. He's won many trophies, and I don't think that Ten Hag will have any attitude problems from him. So I think in that sense, Ten Hag would rather have Sterling. Maybe that's where this interest is coming from. I don't know. Then it comes down to wages again. I mean, Sancho, he doesn't make as much as Sterling, if I'm not wrong. What's the
no? So it doesn't make as much as Sterling, but he'd have to take a significant pay cut. Though I think he earns about 250 grand a week, roughly.
Yeah.
So he'd still have to take a massive pay cut to come to Chelsea as well.
I think that's fair enough, and I think that if he cares about his career, then he would be willing to do it. Charlie, it doesn't matter if we have a lot of depth if those players aren't being paid ridiculous amounts. I mean, that's just smart business, right? And you've got lots of options. You look at the injury crisis we had last season. I don't think that necessarily gets better when you play more games. So the idea of reinforcing any position with better than what we had isn't an issue for me. I don't think this breaks the bank. I don't think that we end up spending 40 million to bring Sancho in. If this is a straight swap and it works for everyone.
Man United are insistent they don't want to pay anything for Sterling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's
mean,
fair.
but I don't know if it'll be a straight swap. I don't know if they may be expecting cash as well from us. I don't
Well,
know.
I think that United are in more of a position to ask for cash because Sancho's a little bit younger and his wages aren't as high, so it's a little bit more difficult with Sterling, seeing as on 100 grand more than Sancho is. But yeah, I think this comes down to the players ultimately. If they're open to it, if they want to do it, then the clubs can probably facilitate it. Yes, you're right. We shouldn't prioritize a winger over a striker. We shouldn't prioritize a winger over a defender. I think we still need a centre back, even though we already have that centre back. We're just not playing him. So yeah, in that sense, I do think that it would be a good deal for both parties. I don't think we need to break the bank for anything, but if he fits into our wage structure, I don't really care. Sanchez hasn't had a lot of game time at Man United anyway. Even if he's only a rotational player at Chelsea, it's still more than he got at United. So
I
he'll
just
have
wonder
a real
whether he.
chance to. Sorry?
I just wonder whether Juventus would be more appealing to him because obviously it's Champions League football. He'd play more regularly there. It's a
Yeah, that's right.
massive side. I think what it's going to come down to is how much playing time there's going to be. Yeah, we know that Sancho's a London boy. But ultimately, if he's looking at it from a playing time perspective, he's going to get far more playing time at Juventus. He's going to be playing Champions League football. That might appeal to him more. I still feel that this deal is a long way from being done. And my issue with the whole Sterling thing is why have we left it so late in the window to make our plans clear?
I don't think that we've left it late, Charlie. I think
But we have though, because like literally, what was it? A couple of weeks ago, or less than about 10 days, 2 weeks ago, it was left out the squad for the opening game against City, right? And there were no indications prior to that he wasn't going to be part of the plans. My thing with this is right. Why did he go on pre-season? Why did he feature prominently in pre-season? Why did Maresca speak about his importance to Chelsea? If the plan all along was for him to be frozen out and moved on, we could have given ourselves a lot more time to get this sorted out. All I'm saying is that it would have made more sense to lay our stance out earlier to give us more time to find solutions. Now we're facing a scramble in the last few days to try and find a solution to move Raheem Sterling on. And that might not happen. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot of interest in him. We don't really know where he wants to go. I just think, obviously, we're not privy to all the circumstances, in regards to the situation. But from the outside looking in, I just thought it would have made more sense to make your stance clear, before pre-season, for example. Which makes me think that maybe it was a last-minute decision. I don't know.
Well, I think that let's just start with pre-season. I think that, to be honest, every player deserves a chance in pre-season. I don't think Maresca. I don't think that's anything special. Maresca praised the player when he first come in. You don't want to create an issue straight off the get-go. Let's see what we're working with and then make a decision. And I think that's what we did with Sterling. I mean, he had one or two good performances in pre-season. I actually think he was one of our better players. But Maresca still didn't like him and drops him straight away. So I don't see how we're leaving it late in that sense. I mean, he hasn't played a single minute of competitive football for us. In terms of the wages, I think that there's no coincidence that Chilwell and Sterling have both been frozen out. But I also think that Maresca's right. They don't fit into a system, either of those players.
I agree on that. I agree.
So, I mean, that is coincidental. But I think the club they're quite happy with that because then they can try and offload them anyway. If Maresca wanted both of those players to stay in his plans, I think that would be the case.
I don't think it would be, mate. I honestly don't think it would. If he genuinely wanted those two players, I think they were going to move. They were going to move them on regardless of whether he wanted them or not, purely because they're underperforming and they're on contracts that don't fit in with the new incentivized contracts that a lot of the new signings are signing when they arrive at the club. So I don't think even if he wanted to keep those two players, that they would have they would have been kept. I think it was a decision that's been taken from above him. Whether people agree or disagree, that's kind of up to them. But that's my view on it. How I see this Sterling thing playing out, I really don't know. It's anyone's guess. We could get this swap deal through. My guess now is probably that Chelsea end up loaning Sterling somewhere, maybe to an Aston Villa or a Crystal Palace or something.
Well, I think Palace would be a great move.
We end up loaning him there for a season. We cover some of the wages, and I think we end up revisiting this next summer. I don't think we're going to get a permanent solution with such little time left in the window. I mean, how do you see it playing out?
Maybe we can do what Atletico did with Omeridium. We can sell 50% of Sterling, and then just go from there. You know, I've never heard of that before, but
mate, I'd take 20% of him to be gone right now. just any percent. But how do you see it panning out? Do you think we find a solution to offload him, whether it's permanently or on loan? Do you think we get a solution by the end of the window?
There's definitely suitors for him. They just don't want to pay the money, right? There's people that want him. Crystal Palace. I mean, I said this on 3 Points Perspective a week ago. You know, I don't think Sterling's worth much more than 20 million.
No, he's not. Maybe 25.
Yeah, I mean, at a push. His wages significantly push that down. I mean, with his wages, if anyone actually wanted to pay that, you'd be getting half.
Oh, no one's paying his wages.
Nobody's doing it, right? So wherever he goes, he's going to have to take a pay cut. Even at United, I think they'd probably just want to match what they were paying Sancho anyway. So that's probably the most you're going to get paid at any other Premier League team. Aston Villa, they are playing Champions League football. I think that if Emery likes him, he's got good. What's the word? Player identification. You know, he knows what he wants, and generally it works. But it's just Sterling for me is like Rashford. He's either great or he's rubbish, and most of the time he's rubbish. So nobody looks at Sterling and for me says, "Oh, I know what I'm going to get every week," because you don't. And I think that a lot of managers will be off put by that. And then you've got the ownerships that are going to struggle with the financial side of things. He's going to be a hard player to offload. We might be sitting with a player that doesn't want to be with us, that isn't going to play for us for the next couple of years. I hope that's not the case. It's a bit like Osimhen. If he cares about his career and his playing time, which as a professional footballer in the latter, you're almost 30, you know, you should cherish these last few years. You don't want to be sitting on the bench, no matter how much you're earning. So I think that he will make an effort to try and find the solution. He's been given enough time to speak with his family. You're never going to be ready for something like this, right? So nobody expects him to leave smiling. I don't care if he's smiling. As far as I'm concerned, you can frown. I will smile when you're gone. But, you know, he has to find a solution for his own career. Maybe the solution is Saudi, you know, because you will play out there. You've got a good lifestyle.
Go there. There was already an approach from Saudi last summer, and he turned it down.
Well, that was last summer when he was playing for Chelsea, Charlie. This is a different scenario.
Yeah, no, sure, but I still don't think that's going. I still don't think that will materialise. Last bit on transfers before we move on to on-pitch matters. Just briefly on Ben Chilwell, mate. Obviously, we know it's the right decision. It feels like a natural coming to the end. It feels like a natural time to part ways. He's 27. He's had a lot of injury issues. He's still a good player, but he's not performed to a level really for a couple of years now. Are you surprised that there's seemingly no one interested in him?
It's just the wages, Charlie. It's the wages. Nobody is going to pay anything near 200 grand a week. I spoke with Dazzling Dave when I went to Wolves the other week, and they all agreed that they'd pay Chilwell 100 grand a week to come to Wolves. So there's definitely interest, and there's fans that would love to have these players coming in. But, you know, you've got to get a fee for him. Then you've got to get someone to match the wages. Then you've got to actually look at the player and say, well, is he going to last a full season? And the answer is no. He's glass these days. Ben Chilwell is basically the new version of what Luke Shaw was. So, you know, it's unfortunate. He's a great player when he played at his best. He was one of the best left wing backs in the league under Thomas Tuchel. I watched him in the Champions League final. It was world class, right? So we've seen what Chile can do, but you know, he doesn't fit into the system. I think that Cucurella was always going to start ahead of him regardless of injuries, just because of the way Maresca plays. Yeah, I mean, look, you've got to respect it, haven't you? It's not like Chalobah, it's not like Gallagher, these other players, you know, they're being forced out. Chilwell is just a lack of quality. He's just not good enough anymore. And that's not to tarnish what he's already achieved. He achieved great things, and absolutely should be well respected as a Chelsea player. You could even argue legend, for what he's done with the club. But it's time to move on.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely time to move on, and we'll find out imminently whether he's going to remain at the club or not. If any suitors come in for him, even if it's a loan deal, I think Chelsea at this point are in a position where they're going to have to accept really whatever offers come in for Chilwell with such little time left. Obviously, he's going to have to want to take the move as well, but it's in his best interest. He knows he's not going to play at Chelsea if he remains at the club, and he doesn't want to waste 6 months of his career just training with the 21. So it's in everyone's best interests to find a solution. Just doesn't seem there's that many viable options out there right now. But mate, let's move on to matters on the pitch. Obviously, we were at Molineux. Big win, unexpected. Really needed it. Even though it was only the second game of the season, we needed a response. We needed to get that first Premier League win on the board under Maresca as quickly as possible. As I said to you after the game, mate, we should enjoy it, but we shouldn't get carried away because it's just one match. There were some positives, still a few defensive frailties, particularly from an organisational standpoint that need ironing out. But has that performance given you a bit more optimism and confidence heading forward with this side? We've got a couple of games this week, second leg against Servette, and then we play Crystal Palace this weekend at Stamford Bridge as well before the international break. Can't believe there's an international break already. It feels like football's only just come back and it's fucking off again. What's
wasn't even
that about?
Yet.
Yeah, I know. What's that about? But yeah, mate, does that Wolves performance, even though it's just one game, does that give you a bit more confidence heading into the games we've got coming up this week?
Yeah, I think it definitely gives me confidence. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I thought we'd win the game, but I thought we'd win ugly, and we won playing great football. It was really sexy, mate. It was sexy to watch.
It could have gone either way, couldn't it? Though, like the two at half time, you're sort of thinking we either come out and we flourish, or we come out and we fold and we lose this game like 3-2.
Mate, we showed great. We showed grit. We showed determination. I mean, we showed that we can respond in difficult scenarios and respond quickly as well. I think, obviously, Madueke, I think he was just, from the get-go, mate. They started booing him. It was loud. I've never understood when people say Wolves don't have a good atmosphere. They've always had a good atmosphere. The Molineux is actually really, really good.
I quite enjoy going there. A lot of people don't like
louder
it.
than the bridge. Let's not take.
Oh, mate, it's not hard to
way
find.
Louder than
it's not hard to find that, is it?
And I think it can be quite an intimidating ground at times. And there's no secret why teams struggle going there. Obviously, the team themselves, but the fans actually back their team even when they're losing. So we went up. We scored the first goal with Jackson. He's going up, having a go at the fans, and that just raises the tension straight away from the get-go. They equalise. We go back in front with. Did they go 2-1 up?
No, we went 2-1 up with Palmer's lob, and then we conceded.
Went 2-1 up, and then they equalised again
right on half time. Yeah.
So even though we conceded quickly, we reacted quickly as well. Up top, we have the potential to have one of the best. I'm not even going to say it's a front three. It was more like a front four at times.
Yeah, front four, even front five sometimes. I
mean, it was incredible. But yeah, we lack so much defensively. I think that especially on that right side, although I like Gusto and I love what he does on the ball, I think Gusto's really settling into that role when he inverts. He's doing a good job of that.
Are you surprised that Gusto seems to be inverting, the right back seems to be inverting more than the left back, because against Wolves we saw, it's great to have flexibility, of course it is, but I would have thought, Cucurella suits that inverted role a lot more than maybe Gusto does. I'm not saying Gusto can't do it, but, one of the best right backs in the league, surely you want him, bombing up and down that right-hand side. We know Cucurella is not quite as good going forward. Maybe it makes more sense to invert him on a bit more of a regular basis, but I guess it's good to have options. But you surprised to see Gusto inverting more than Cucurella, specifically in that Wolves game?
I mean, Maresca did that at Leicester. He always did the right back. But again, if you can be flexible, that's great. Maybe there was a reason for that. I'm not 100% sure. For me, that was our weakness, really, was I think Gusto on one of the set pieces, one of the goals we conceded, he was slightly out of position, or maybe it was the first one. I can't remember. And then Fofana as well. I just don't see what everyone else is. I don't see it. I think he's a very good player. I don't see why everyone says he has to start every week. I don't get it. I think that if you go from what Maresca has said, you play players based on how they train and perform, I start Tosin. I really do. I think that Tosin's come in and everyone's nobody's talking about him. I don't understand why nobody's talking about it. He had a great performance against Servette. The only competitive game we've had so far with a clean sheet. Granted,
he'll play again. He'll play again Thursday night.
He will play again, and then I want him to start against Crystal Palace. That's what I want. I want to see him and Chilwell and see how they work out. Badiashile and Disasi have no place within this side. They will not play in the Premier
League. They won't play much.
Maresca, unless he is forced to play them because of injuries. They just won't do it. But Tosin, I really see a player there. I really do. And for everything that Fofana seems to be lacking at this moment in time, Tosin has it. Now this gets spin, Charlie, because we uploaded a video yesterday in the gym. I did a video with Jem, and people seem to think I have an agenda against Fofana. I don't like him. He's a good player. He's a great player when he plays well. How can you say that he deserves to start every week when he hasn't proven himself? Forget half the season. He hasn't proven himself over a quarter of a season.
No, but on the flip side, though, Tosin hasn't proven himself at Chelsea at all.
He's done more this season than Fofana.
Based on a game against a bang average side?
I am basing it on that.
No, I'm not having that. I think that's a bit harsh. I get it. Fofana
Charlie, it's true. It is what it is. I'm not as I said, I like Fofana, but if we're going on what Maresca said, you start Tosin over Fofana. You just do. Also, as well, if you're trying to ease a player back from injury, and everyone's making that excuse as well, why are you throwing him in the firing line straight away? Why are you not giving him more time to embed into the squad and the system?
He's not going to play those Conference League games. So I think, I like Fofana. I think it's clear that Maresca wants to go with Chilwell and Fofana as that first choice defensive pairing. I think on paper, and I know football's not played on paper, but on paper, that is Chelsea's best centre-back pairing. Now, that's up to Tosin and others to do something about that, perform well when they're given the opportunities, and give the manager something to think about. But I think until they're either performing to a really good level or Fofana significantly drops off, I don't really see that centre-back partnership changing. And look, I like Fofana. I think he's a very good centre-back. He's been plagued by injury problems. We've not been able to see the best of him. But if he can stay fit, if he can get himself back into the groove this season, then he is definitely, in my opinion, at full fitness and playing to his best. He's Chelsea's best centre-half, in my opinion, that we've got at the club.
Charlie, if he can last a full season, I'll agree with you.
That's totally fair enough. That is totally fair enough. But I mean, mate, what are you looking to see from these next two games this week? Obviously, the Servette game is a little bit of not a strange one, but it's one where we're already 2-0 up. 2-0 a bit of a dangerous scoreline, though, because you don't want to go and make like 11 changes and then you go one down and suddenly it's 2-1. The home crowd get up and you find yourself in a little bit of a tricky situation. There's going to be changes. What are you expecting from this game and what are you wanting to see? I think if we score one goal, the game's pretty much done. How strong would you go in this, bearing in mind we've got Palace at home on Sunday, which is a far more important game?
Well, I think that I've said that we need to be gung-ho this season, especially the fact that we're not going to be signing more defenders, right? So if you're not going to sign defenders and you've got frailty at the back, then attack more, right? And score more goals. If you want to win 6-2 every week, it's going to be very entertaining, but you're not going to be able to score 6 every week. Try and do that. If that's how you're going to win, I don't have an issue. This game is different because it is a knockout competition. If we don't win this, we don't qualify for Europe. People aren't taking this game seriously enough from the fans that I'm speaking to. This is so important. It's massive. We should be talking about this more. There is so much pressure on these players to just get a result. And I think we will, but I don't think it will be easy. I think we'll concede. I think we'll probably end up winning 3-1. But yeah, I mean, look, the confidence from the Wolves game is irrelevant if you've got completely different players. If you have the same players, then you can just carry that momentum in. We know we're going to rotate. We're going to have a different back line. Badia, Schilder, Sassy and Tossen will start again, most likely. We'll have Jorgensen at the back, so completely different.
Vega, I think Vega will start as well.
Yeah, Vega as well.
Would you give? I think this is a great game to start Pedro Neto again. I think it's a great game to start Joao Felix.
Yes.
Would you stick with Mudryk again as well? He started the last 2 games. Maresca's not been particularly impressed with some of his decision making or quality on the ball. Do you think he sticks with him again? What would you do?
I would probably stick with Mudryk. Yeah, I think. Listen, you're looking at a player that was never given a run in, and when he scored one week, he was out the team the next, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to reward good performances. I liked a lot of what Poch did last season. I didn't like his handling of Mudryk. That just confused me. And I think that if Maresca is going to do anything differently, he needs to put his arm around the shoulder, and he does say it how it is, which I like. But then let's give the player a chance to prove that he can develop, right? If it's just a case of him getting hooked at halftime and not getting a chance for 5-6 games, it's hard. It's really hard, not just to build the confidence, but to build the relationship on the pitch with other players. Because I think chemistry is a big issue with Mudryk as well. Like we spoke about Dewsbury Hall, and why is he not necessarily linking up as well as he could at the beginning of the season? I think it's because he's playing with the second side. If Dewsbury Hall was playing with the same players as we started against Wolves, you'd probably see him play better. Players generally play better with better players. So yeah, I think a lot of it is just chemistry, getting used to playing with other players on the pitch, and just have a go. You know, one thing that Neto does that Mudryk doesn't is he just goes for it, mate. And I think that Mudryk at times sees the pass, doesn't go for it, sees the space, doesn't run into it. And when you got a player with the characteristics that he has, with pace and just unbelievable speed, utilize that, right? It's not always about playing fancy football. Sometimes you just need to do the simple things. And I think that's where a lot of away and home fans actually follow the team. Sometimes we see Mudryk and we just go, why is he not doing what everyone knows he should be? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's certainly, it should be a game we're winning. It's a winnable game, of course it is. And you just want to see us continue that winning momentum. Yes, this would be a 3rd win in a row. Sure, 2 against Servette and a big win against Wolves. But winning builds confidence. It builds momentum. And if we could go into the international break, say, having recorded 4 wins on the spin, that I think you'd have to say that's a really positive little mini start to the season. I know we've got a couple of hurdles to overcome still, but I think that would be exactly where we expected to be. A loss to Man City, 3 points against Wolves, and then a couple of wins against Servette in the Conference League. I think for that little 4-game period, that's probably where we should be at, and that gives us something to build on going again after the international break. The only slight issue I'd have is that it's really annoying when you start building up a head of steam and then you don't have a game for 2 weeks and everyone goes off to their countries and they do this and that. Hopefully they don't get any injuries and stuff. But it always seems to be the way, doesn't it? Whenever we're building up a little bit of momentum, there always then seems to come an international break. And perhaps the timing won't be great. But look, if we can beat Palace as well, that would be massive. Palace, obviously, a tricky game. We don't know what's going to happen on Thursday night yet. But just on that Palace game, mate, Stamford Bridge, the atmosphere. If we could have the away support, I don't want this to sound like I'm shitting on people that go to Stamford Bridge, because me and you both go there as well. But if we could have the away support at the Bridge, it would make such a difference. Like, I think you can notice, I don't know if you noticed on Sunday, mate, but the players, I think, really enjoy playing away from home because the support is just so much better.
Yeah, but I think it's also like that with a lot of teams. I mean, there's
sure.
very few teams that you can say their home support is better than the away support. I suppose maybe Liverpool, Wolves actually is probably within that bracket, and Newcastle at times. Like, there's not many teams that you go there and the home atmosphere is just unbelievable the majority of weeks. The Bridge has always been quiet, even when we've been winning. And the problem is we haven't been winning. So it's been even quieter than it was before. So I don't think
those like few hundred Servette fans were louder last Thursday.
Yeah, way louder. And look, I mean, if you go in the West Stand and you sit down in the lower sections, I've done it once before. You can see why the whole of the bridge doesn't make it noise.
That's a problem, by the way, mate. That how much
there's a lot of tourists that go and watch the matches. Matthew Harding generally are okay. We got the lower section, then you got the shed. Those are the two areas that make noise. The East Stand don't join in. That's a family section and a corporate section. The West lower is all tourists. West View is very similar. It's overpriced. A lot of fans that can't get tickets in the cheaper sections because there isn't many of them anymore. They're forced to either pay extortionate prices or they're priced out, and that certainly affects the atmosphere that we are able to create. But to be honest with you, I think a lot of it is just the fans aren't used to getting behind a team in a way that doesn't correlate with the football. What you see at Stamford Bridge on the pitch is generally what you get in the stands. If you see great football, then the fans respond to that. And if you see bad football, then the fans respond to it. And that is also one of the problems. I don't believe in booing the players. I think it's an absolute disgrace. People say, well, we spend all our hard-earned money to come and watch this. Well, fucking watch it on Sky then. Like, I don't understand. Why would you boo your own team? I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. You can talk about the fact that you've been watching Chelsea for X amount of time. Like, how are you helping this team by booing? And then what people say, Charlie, is they say, we're not booing the players. We're booing the owners.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry. Because the fact that you're booing the player, like, I don't care who you're booing. The players think it's them. The players think it's them. So whatever you think, it doesn't really matter because ultimately you're affecting what these players are thinking. I mean, Charlie, you said it yourself the other day. Caicedo preferred playing away from home last season.
Yeah, he said
because
it.
Of fans like that. And that is a real problem. And this is the entitlement that we have to try and get rid of. I almost think that it's been, it's certainly been coming for a while. The success that Chelsea have had, we've had to eat some humble pie, but we dipped to some real lows over the past 2 years, and now that we're starting to get to a level where fans believe we can win trophies, albeit the Conference League and maybe another cup. We are not the Chelsea of old. Don't expect what you got 10 years ago. Just don't expect it. Football doesn't work like that anymore. It does not work like that. The process is such a real thing, man. And that's why I thought that we should have kept Poch. Now, Maresca could prove to be a fantastic appointment. I hope he is. But this is just ridiculous, mate. It's absolutely ridiculous, especially because the season's just started and we're having this conversation. Yeah, this is a conversation for December, January, not August. I mean, what the hell?
Mate, I hear you.
That's where I stand on it.
It don't make sense, does it?
It make sense.
Mate, I honestly can't get my head around it. I cannot get my head around it. But this is where we're at with it, mate. There's always going to be fans that will say, "Oh, we've got a right to express how I feel," blah blah blah. Of course you do. But there's a time and a place for it. And as you said, like 2 or 3 games into the season with a new manager is not the time or place for it. Like, what good is that possibly doing? How is that helping anyone? Everyone wants Chelsea to do well, and yet people are behaving in a way that is detrimental to the team actually performing well. You know how much difference fans can make to a team's performance, and equally, it can have a negative effect on a performance if there's negative energy coming from the stands, and the players can feel that as well. So, yeah, it's basically a massive. It's a massive shambles, isn't it?
It's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. I really did think about this because I said this after Servette when we won the home game, and I had a lot of backlash from people. A lot of people agreed as well. And I generally did think about it, and I try and appreciate that side of, you're a match going fan, you have the right to express your opinion. I get it. I'm not oblivious to that. I was there when we lost to Middlesbrough and Everton. The players deserve to be booed. I didn't personally boo them. I had no problem with fans that were. I had zero issue with that. And that was at full time, not half time. Full time. After 90 minutes of shit. You don't boo players at half time. Like,
but we weren't even losing. We weren't. All right. Granted, it wasn't a great performance. We weren't even losing.
We weren't losing, Charlie.
No,
we weren't losing.
No, yeah, it's mad, and it's.
You know what, Charlie? Apparently, we're toxic, mate. Toxic positivity, the new trend that's going around. If you want to support your team and be positive, in fact, it's not even about being positive. It's just about not being negative at times.
Yeah.
It's like people want to find any excuse to just be angry and have a go at someone. Like, that's fine. But don't tell me that you're doing the right thing and that you are morally correct. You are so wrong in so many ways. And as a fan, that is not what a fan does. A fan is there to support. That is literally the definition of a fan, right? Unless, excuse the pun, unless you've got a fan like that. So you are there to support. That is your job. And it is a job, right? You're the 12th man at times. When we have got behind the team, it has helped the team. It has propelled the team. And you think that that's a coincidence that when we do the opposite, it goes the opposite way around, and we are actually making life harder for our players. So,
yeah, I totally agree.
Criminal, mate. I don't understand it. Yeah, there is no reason to boo your players at halftime. It is,
and especially
actually, hang on. I will say this: if you're 3-0 down at halftime,
yeah, sure,
fair enough.
But especially when you're not losing, and especially when it's 2 games into the fucking season. Like, what are people doing? Like, I just think people are either got a ridiculous sense of entitlement, or they just do not understand how football works. And I think there's probably a combination of both in regards to the situation going on right now. But yeah, it's something that's been a problem for a long time. It's something that needs to change. But if I'm being totally honest, mate, I don't really think it's something that's going to change anytime soon. And these people will continue to do that. And that's obviously on them. There's no point arguing with these people about this thing, but it's why Stamford Bridge, I sense that the players don't really enjoy playing there. Yes, the home record's improved a lot last season, by the way, but I just get the feeling that, we don't really enjoy playing there. Mate, we go there regularly as fans. I'll be honest, mate, if I was a Chelsea player, I wouldn't particularly enjoy playing at Stamford Bridge. And
then the fans expect the players to clap for them.
Yeah, whilst they've been giving them like abuse all fucking game. Like, it's mad, isn't it? But yeah, as I said, there's no wonder players prefer playing away from home. I think we probably prefer, nothing to do with the atmosphere. So I think we probably prefer away games as well. They're more fun. They're more enjoyable. The support's better. Yeah, this is not just a Chelsea problem, by the way. Obviously, we're talking about it because that's what we know, but I'm sure it's an issue at other clubs as well. Away support is generally always going to be better, but your home form's so important. And it's just a shame that Stamford Bridge as a collective or as a majority can't really seem to get behind the team when we really need it now, sort of more than ever. But I guess that's kind of just where we are right now.
Fans were very patient in the first season under Potter, and I think that the real split was last season. And that's the thing, is that they say, well, we've been patient. Well, patience is more than 2 years in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes 3 years for things to click with one manager. I mean, we've had 5. So not to sound like a broken record, but you've got to keep being patient, guys. I mean, it's not our fault they keep sacking managers. Just because they've sacked the manager doesn't mean that we can, completely dismiss the new one. It's not his fault that he's just come in and he's in a bit of an awkward situation.
Mate, and as that Take That song went, you've just got to have a little patience. Simple as that. And I think on that note, mate, it's a good place to round out. Mate, thanks so much for coming on. Pleasure to catch up, discuss all things Chelsea as always. Guys, make sure you smash the likes on the video, subscribe to the Chelsea Fan TV if you're new around here. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below whether you agree or disagree with anything myself or Alex have discussed in today's episode. And let's see what the rest of the transfer window's got in store for us and how that squad's going to be looking come Friday evening. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Up the Chelsea and catch you again.